Hi guys, this is Sam from Fluid Social, and I just want to give you guys a quick update about the coronavirus, coaching, and what you guys can be really doing to keep yourself occupied, to keep yourself entertained, and to keep improving yourself and being as much and as good as you can be during what seem to be increasingly difficult times. And so I thought I'd address the first things most importantly, which is the actual coronavirus itself. For those who don't really know a lot about it, the best advice that we've been given at the moment is to keep social distancing as much as possible. So to be staying away from crowded public spaces like bars, nightclubs, pubs, and that sort of thing as much as you can. And that's large events, festivals, marathons, football matches, and things like that, more in the daytime. So as to avoid, not just for yourself, but spreading this virus to the elderly particularly, and people with impaired immune systems and immune responses, who are much more likely to experience the more severe effects of this, which culminates often in pneumonia, which can then lead to organ failure. So whilst a lot of people are thinking, I'm young and I'm fine and I'm healthy and I want to keep living in the same way that I have been living, the precautions aren't just for yourself, whether you can manage and handle the coronavirus, but it's actually so as not to spread it to people who are in much more vulnerable and difficult situations. There's a sort of moral obligation that we keep ourselves away from the people at risk in case our symptoms haven't shown up and we're actually at risk of spreading this to people who would then suffer extreme consequences of it. Now let's have a little bit of a look at what your dating life or your social life, how that might be affected. Well, obviously, if you're not going out at night, if you're advised to stay away from bars and clubs, both for your own health and for the health of others, then it's going to be more difficult to improve your social life. People are also being advised to stay at home from work, and so people aren't really going out as much in the day to the cafes, the museums, the galleries, and walking through the streets, which is where a lot of you guys are going to be wanting to meet the types of people that you want to meet. So the question then is, what do I do? What do I do if I'm a single guy, if I'm really working on my self-confidence and my social comfortability, and yet I'm advised not to go into public spaces or to keep my distance socially? What can I do? And I've been thinking about this a lot, and there's a few things that I think are important for all of us to be bearing in mind. The first of which is that having a level of caution doesn't necessitate that we're also anxious. For example, we can go out and take the advice to keep our hands clean, to keep washing our hands and using alcohol gel, to avoid touching, the inside of a London Underground or a bus or a cafe table. Avoid touching surfaces which could contribute to the spread of the virus. So exercise a level of caution in the way that you're acting throughout your life, but that doesn't necessitate that you also carry anxiety with you. Those two things can be separated. You can live your life in a way that will not contribute to the spreading of this virus to those who would suffer the consequences. You can exercise that caution without also harboring a level of personal anxiety, without worrying about what your life's going to do, without constantly looking at the news and the outrage that's posted online about the possible repercussions and how your life is going to be damaged and how the economy is going to collapse. You can exercise caution without anxiety. So now you're probably thinking, well, what if I am feeling this anxiety? What if I am feeling socially isolated and there's not as many people out and about and my social life is suffering? What can I do? Well, I always advise looking at this as a chance to use the situation to your advantage. There are always times, whatever business or career you do, where you feel inclined to exercise a level of personal growth, to engage in a topic or a hobby or something that's going to improve your own lifestyle, whether that's meditating, reading a book that you haven't read, organizing some sort of social event to benefit a community or a certain demographic of people. But we rarely find the time. We've got bills to pay, we've got work to do, and we rarely find the time. Well, maybe this is the time that you can actually go in and start thinking about those elements of self-development that you've neglected up until this point. If you haven't established some sort of mindfulness practice, I really recommend getting going with that. I've released a couple of videos on my channel, which I'll attach here, which will give you a rough overview of how to engage in a mindfulness practice. Otherwise, Sam Harris has a very good app called the Waking Up app, which is very cheap. You can actually email him and get the subscription for free if you want, if you can't afford to pay the £4 or £5 a month that subscription costs. And engaging in something like that is going to lower your levels of anxiety and increase your productivity, your mental stability, and your introspection, the way that you actually look at yourself and find perspective on your life and live a little bit more in the present moment, not worrying about the past or looking to the future and potential anxieties down the road. Otherwise, if there are some books that you want to read, then get your reading list sorted and hibernate with some good books and isolate yourself that way. But more importantly, I tend to find that anxiety is reduced when we look to see what we can do for our community or the people around us. So, for example, if you live in a flat or a building surrounded by other people, again, think about the people that aren't able to survive this in the way that you're likely to be able to. Do you live around old people who won't be able to do the shopping for themselves, who won't be able to have the critical care, or even just someone to check up on them that's going to give them that security when they're in a very vulnerable state? What can you do for the people around you to improve their lives and their situations? If you have friends or acquaintances who you feel like are going through a difficult time psychologically or mentally, now is the time to reach out to them and check up on them and check that everybody's okay. Generally, it tends to be the case that rates of depression and sadly suicide as well increase when there are financial crises and sort of existential crises like this, where people are going to be more concerned and anxious about their life situation. What can you do to reach out to the people that are going to need you at this point? And what you'll find is when you do that, when you go and knock on doors and check that the people in your community are okay and they've got everything they need, they can do the shopping for themselves, they've got all of the equipment and the necessities that they need to survive through this. If you go out and actually focus your attention on someone else, you'll find that your own anxiety and self-consciousness is decreased. By helping others, you'll find that your anxiety is reduced and that you feel better by offering that resource to other people. So here's some ways to think about this time that you've got where you're going to be more socially isolated and less able to put yourself out there, go out and meet people in public. However, that's not to say that you can't. I'm still going ahead with my coaching. As I'm telling you, I'm exercising levels of caution that I wouldn't otherwise be exercising, keeping my hands clean, having a level of social distancing. When I meet someone new, I'm going for a fist bump or an elbow bump instead of a hug and a kiss or a handshake. And by doing this, I'm able to reduce the spread. I'm able to fulfill my moral obligation to the community, but I'm also able to actually continue to live my life in a way that is helpful and healthy for me. So I haven't stopped meeting people. If I see someone that I want to talk to in the street, if I see a beautiful girl that I want to meet, I'm still going to go and talk to her, even in these times, because I don't believe you need to stop everything. You just need to do what you can to improve the situation for other people and decrease the spread. So separate again that anxiety and that caution that you exercise, and then get on with your life in whatever way is safe for the community and is still doing everything you need to do to stay on top of your life. So I'm still coaching at this time. I'm just coaching in a slightly different way, and you guys are going to see from the videos that I'm releasing that I've actually still been able to meet people in public in the streets of London despite this virus and despite the negative effects that it's having. You don't need to shut up shop completely. You just need to exercise a level of caution. So the advice that I would give you if you want to continue going out and meeting people, cold approaching in the daytime, is not to shake hands, is to keep it topical. So firstly, the elbow bump or the fist bump, that can be quite funny, and you can bring that into a conversation in a sort of lightly humorous or comical way, showing that you understand the risks, but also making light of it and kind of turning it into a bit of a parody. Then obviously you can talk about the coronavirus and how it's got everybody stuck inside. You're sort of the last survivors out still living life in the streets. And then setting up dates or second meetings in places that aren't at high risk. So for example, you could go to a very quiet cafe, or you could go and sit on a park bench as opposed to going to a busy bar, a busy club or a pub. At this time, I would really advise that you stay on top of your self-development, you read the books you want to read, you install some sort of meditation or mindfulness practice into your life and see that the anxiety reducing effects that that's going to have, and then you continue to live the life that you've chosen. You continue to hustle, you continue to stay on your path. We're all going to suffer somewhat financially, or most people are going to suffer from this outbreak, but see what you can do to take a little advantage over everybody else in your industry, or everyone else that's completely shutting up shop. See if you can help those people that are anxious whilst optimizing the situation for yourself. Maybe focusing on the back end, focusing on what you can do to improve your life rather than that front end, extroverted, being out in the world all the time. You can focus on the back end of a business, or you can focus on researching a project that's interesting or important to you. But most of all, for your friends, your community, your family around you, now is the time to check that everybody's okay mentally, that they understand what's going on, that they're not isolated and alone. Because my greatest worry here is that people with psychological pressures and difficulties are going to see that this is a time where being alone and being forced into your flat and seeing just negativity on the news is going to cause a lot of psychological strain. So if any of you have any friends that you would put in the at-risk category with their psychology or depression or suicide, make sure that those people are okay and fulfill your moral obligation to the people around you and to your friends so that you know that they're okay, because there's nothing more tragic than something terrible happening as a result of a passing trend, something that's going to pass, and then knowing that that decision was made at a difficult time and it didn't need to happen. So I would really advise just reaching out to the people that you know and that you care about and that you love, and making sure that everybody's okay, and then focusing on yourself and focusing on establishing some sort of routine practice in your life where you can get through these times where you are going to have to be inside, still taking that time to go out and talk to the people you want to talk to, approach, meet up with girls that you're interested in if you get a chance to, and live your life in as normal a way as possible whilst taking the necessary precautions and cautions. So if you guys need any advice or help from me, I'm offering 20-minute free Skype consultations and calls for anybody that just needs to talk about this, or anybody that's feeling anxiety, or anybody that wants to get out there and continue to go out and improve their social life during these difficult times. Just get in contact with me at admin@fluid.social. I'll get you onto my WhatsApp and we'll arrange a short call to talk about anything that you need to talk about. Stay strong, guys. Keep going, keep living your life, keep helping the people around you, and we'll get through it together. Sam, out.